Don't buy another pair of glasses until you've seen what this new invention can do. These self-adjustable glasses are taking the world by storm. They let you
Hello, it's 7 o'clock. You're watching Sky News Breakfast. These are our top stories here this morning. Wildfires force thousands of holidaymakers to evacuate their hotels on the Greek island of Rhodes. Michael Gove prepares to lay out plans to tackle the housing crisis, converting shops to homes and cutting red tape on residential extensions. Russia attacks the port city of Odessa, killing 1 and injuring 18 others, including 4 children. How a majority of stalking victims are missing out on crucial advice that could secure a conviction.
And there's lots of sport today with the American Brian Harman taking a 5-shot lead into the final round of the Open at Royal Liverpool. While England's cricketers will hope for improvements in the weather to keep their hopes of winning the Ashes against Australia alive.
Sadly, both those events look like being a bit of a washout. There's a yellow rain warning in force for Wales and the North.
And coming up at 1:45, we'll take a look at the Sunday papers with broadcasters Gemma Forte and Edward Adu. Hello, a very good morning and welcome to Sky News Breakfast. Thousands of holidaymakers and locals have been forced to evacuate parts of Rhodes after wildfires broke out on the Greek island. Europe's been baking in hot and dry weather for most of the week, leading to wildfires breaking out across the continent, particularly in Greece. On the island of Rhodes, homes and hotels were evacuated, with the southeast of the island worst affected. Milena Veselinovic reports.
See that little town?
From a relaxing holiday to an apocalyptic nightmare. Evacuation alerts have spread to more areas of Rhodes overnight as wildfires continue to advance. In their droves, tourists and locals have been forced to escape. Thousands have been evacuated from the island, escorted from beaches in the south and taken north.
Here I am on the rescue ship taking us to Rhodes town and leaving the hellfire behind us.
British tourist Ian Morrison and his family were finally evacuated from the southeast of the island in the early hours of this morning. Speaking to Sky News from the crowded boat, he said that after walking 6 kilometres in the blazing heat to an evacuation point, they were faced with chaos and no idea how or when they would be taken to safety.
Thousands moved onto the beach. It was impossible to get onto coaches because people just ran. It was literally like the end of the world. And the flames were now far more visible. Suddenly there were leaping flames into the sky. My wife was, on the other hand, was finding it incredibly stressful, and particularly when they said women and children only in the bus, and I kissed them goodbye. She thought that might be the last time she saw me.
Fleeing tourists sought refuge where they could overnight, as 200 firefighters continue to tackle the blazes which started earlier this week. Annual summer forest fires across Greece have been exacerbated by an intense heat wave. Outside Athens, the blackened remains of ravaged homes, the latest casualties of a changing climate.
The evacuation of all hotels was carried out without problems to safe places, and it's estimated that more than 2,000 people have been rescued by sea.
But there is no respite. With temperatures expected to reach 45 degrees again today, Rhodes remains on the highest alert for fires.
And Milena's here with me now. So Milena, a nightmare for anyone who lives on Rhodes and a nightmare for holidaymakers as well. What's the advice from the British government about what they should do?
So Anna, the Foreign Office is saying make sure you keep closely updated with their advice. They say they are monitoring the situation. They're in touch with local emergency services, and there's a consular assistance line that's also available for British people who are currently in Rhodes. I'm also going to read you some of James Cleverly's tweets. He is the Foreign Secretary, of course. He said in a tweet that the safety of British nationals is our top priority. I encourage those in Rhodes and those with family and friends there to continue checking FCDO travel advice for updates. Now, the Greek government has also established a crisis management unit to try to evacuate those foreign nationals who want to leave. Now, when it comes to the holiday operators, now most of them are still running flights to the island. Companies like EasyJet, TUI, Jet2, they're still running those flights. However, BA is saying that if you are on the island and you want to leave early, you can do that free of charge. And if you are due to depart in the next week, you can also delay your departure again free of charge if you don't want to quite go into what looks like a fiery inferno rather than a relaxing holiday. But main takeaway is just please keep closely updated what the Foreign Office advises, and just make sure you keep in touch with the people who are in the island if you've got any family and friends there.
OK, helpful advice. Milena, thanks very much indeed. The government will announce plans to help tackle the housing crisis tomorrow. Plans by the Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove will make it easier for homeowners to build extensions and conversions. They'll also make way for developers to transform disused shops on the high street. Well, Michael Gove's Labour shadow Lisa Nandy has responded, saying Britain desperately needs more homes, but another review is a drop in the ocean compared to what's needed to fix the housing crisis. Labour will restore housing targets, reform compulsory purchase rules and take the tough choices to back the builders, not the blockers. Let's take a look at some of the day's other stories now. And Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is being fitted with a pacemaker. In a video filmed before the procedure, Mr. Netanyahu said he feels excellent but needs to listen to his doctors. It comes 1 week after Netanyahu was taken to hospital for what his office described as dehydration.
I had gained 40 pounds. My stomach felt like Jell-O. I was the most...
Well, that news comes as Israel faces widespread street protests over Netanyahu's controversial judicial overhaul plan. These pictures are from Jerusalem, where tens of thousands of people took to the streets ahead of Monday's anticipated vote on the reforms. 4 men have been arrested after a hearse was driven onto a pitch during a football match in Tyne and Wear on Friday. The pre-season friendly between Gateshead and Dunstan had to be called off at half-time. Northumbria police said 3 men, 2 19-year-olds and a 32-year-old were arrested on suspicion of a fray. Another 41-year-old man was also held on suspicion of conspiracy to commit criminal damage. The British band, the 1975, have cancelled their upcoming shows in Taiwan and Indonesia a day after Malaysia banned the group from performing. During a performance in Kuala Lumpur, lead singer Matty Healy criticised the country's anti-LGBT laws and kissed his male bandmate. In a statement, the band said that current circumstances make it impossible for them to proceed with their scheduled shows. Now, it's estimated that 1.8 million people in the UK, mostly women, were victims of stalking last year. Of those, less than 1% were assigned a specialist support worker to help get them justice and stay protected. Well, campaigners are calling on the government to make access to stalking advocates a legal right so no victim falls through the cracks. Sky's Becky Cottrell reports.
What Emily experienced when a previous relationship broke down was hell. Her ex-boyfriend harassed her relentlessly. She was eventually diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
If my phone wasn't ringing, then my laptop was. If it wasn't my laptop, it was my iPad. And I felt like everything was closing in on me and I literally couldn't escape the relentless communication.
Scared to leave the house, she had no other option but to go to the police.
One of the first pieces of advice I was given by the first officer that took a statement was just block him and ignore him, which sounds like a normal thing to do, but actually when you're dealing with stalkers it can escalate behaviour. And the National Stalking Helpline said that it was really important to keep open a line of communication, not to respond to, but to keep a track of the escalating behaviour, which was later used as evidence in court.
The charity also put Emily in touch with an independent advocate, specially trained to help victims of stalking. She says they not only provided support at a desperate time, they also gave crucial advice that helped to convict her ex.
We know in lots of stalking cases there is still a lack of recognition of the crime. Often individual reports can, be logged separately. It can be quite a a complex case to pull together from a criminal perspective.
But these advocates are far from a given for the majority of victims, who are mostly women. There were an estimated 1.8 million victims of stalking last year. Less than 1% had access to a support advocate. Most cases go unreported, but of those that are, on average, only 1 in 1,000 stalkers are convicted. Compare that to cases where a victim has an advocate, then 1 in 4 stalkers are convicted. And that's why campaigners want the government to recognise the importance of these services.
The conviction for stalking are obscenely low. What I really want to see is the overhaul of our justice system so that everybody that is a victim of a crime gets the justice they need. And a stalking advocate is a very crucial first step in that.
It would of course take time and a lot of money to recruit and deliver enough advocates to go round. But tell that to victims. Thankfully, a few years on, Emily no longer feels an overwhelming panic every time her phone rings. But her story speaks to the struggles many people who are stalked face when it comes to the criminal justice system. Emily needed help to navigate that system, help that so many are not getting. Becky Cottrell, Sky News.
Well, in response to that report, in a statement, a government spokesman has said, we have quadrupled funding for victim support and made major changes to police practice and the law so that victims get the help, safety and justice they deserve. Let's take a look now at the front pages of this morning's papers, and we'll kick off with the Sunday Times, which reports that the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, is rethinking his ultra-low emissions zone plan after criticism that it cost Labour the Uxbridge by-election. The Sunday Telegraph leads with a warning from the Levelling Up and Housing Secretary Michael Gove that the drive to net zero shouldn't become a crusade and that some measures need to be relaxed. The Observer says that science and business leaders have warned both major parties that dumping their green pledges would be political suicide. The Sunday Express says bank bosses will be hauled before the Treasury and warned that they face being shut down if they close customer accounts for political reasons. Mail on Sunday says that a Remain-backing campaigner has falsely suggested in a documentary that former Prime Minister Boris Johnson lied about nearly dying when he was taken to hospital with COVID in order to gain public sympathy. The Sunday People has an exclusive story about the drowning victim Nicola Bulley. They say her pictures are being misused to set up fake accounts on internet dating sites. The Sun reports that EastEnders star Patsy Kensit has split from her fiancé, a millionaire property tycoon, just 10 months after they got engaged. And while much of the rest of Europe boils in record temperatures, the Star reports that the British summer, so far at least, looks very wet and very windy. As if we haven't noticed. So let's get more on the weather. We've got a yellow weather warning in place across Wales and the north today. And let's get the details from Sky meteorologist Joe Wheeler. Pretty hideous day yesterday, Joe. What's it look like today?
Well, for some parts of the country, it looks like it being a bit of an implement. But yesterday, of course, that rain was widespread. About the only place that didn't get wet was northern Scotland. And there they had a lovely day, sunshine and temperatures up to around 21, 22 degrees Celsius. But elsewhere, yes, it was the quantity of rain. And it's quantity of rain which will fall today that's going to be an issue. So it varies region by region, but roughly for July, we're looking at somewhere between 90 and 100 millimetres of rain. And parts of Wales and Cornwall saw over 77 millimetres yesterday, and parts of Northern Ireland 56. And today, of course, that rain belt has stalled. So the rain is just going to keep coming. And it's quite easy to see that we're likely to reach those values where we've seen all of July's rainfall fall in about 48 hours. If there's a silver side to this silver lining to this cloud, I'll get there in a minute, it is the fact that it is quite mild this morning. Temperatures in many parts of the country starting at around 16 or 17 degrees Celsius. But as I say, if you've got the wet weather, and even if you haven't, there's the risk of some heavy thundery showers. Let's take a look at the forecast.
This is probably
warm memories wherever you go. The weather,
sponsored by Qatar Airways.
So the weather's not going to look very summery for the rest of the weekend as low pressure brings unseasonably wet and windy spells. Apart from northern Scotland, most places will have a cloudy start this morning with a band of persistent rain draped over Northern Ireland, North Wales and northern England. It'll be breezy with strong winds through the English Channel. The heavy and persistent rain across central parts will sink slowly southwards through the day and could affect travel plans or outdoor events. To the north and south of the main rain area, it'll be brighter with a few sharp showers. There's a risk of some heavy or thundery showers breaking out across parts of the Midlands and East Anglia during the afternoon. Rain will continue to affect central parts overnight, heavy on western hills. The skies will clear further north with just a few showers. And the strong winds will ease on Monday as cloud and rain clears erratically southwards, but there could be some thundery downpours across southeast England. Otherwise, it's a brighter day with some scattered showers.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
James is here with all the sport, once again traumatised by the weather forecast.
It's deliberate, isn't it? Put the weather on, put the sport afterwards and upset every single England cricket fan out there.
The weather is trolling you.
It is trolling me, yeah. Not the first thing to troll me, to be honest with you, Anna. It's been a few. But look, like many England fans, I think you got a few nervous hours ahead because we need a bit of rain to hold away and stay away to keep England's Ashes hopes alive against Australia. We'll tell you the story of a frustrating fourth day for them at Old Trafford. Plus, the American golfer Brian Harman has only ever won 2 tour events before, but could he be the new Open champion by the end of today with the latest from Royal Liverpool? And we'll tell you how Lewis Hamilton took his first pole position since 2021 as he goes for his first victory of the season in this afternoon's Hungarian Grand Prix.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Take you live to Manchester. Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Download for free now.
I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul. We aim to be the best and the most trusted place for news.
I'm Katie Spencer and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent. When you think of Glastonbury, it's mud you want and music. They're going to cross to us live in a minute. Okay.
We always were capable of doing this.
Oh, they're wonderful children as an audience.
Who did that? Maverick here on the red carpet. I'm so excited. We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
Nor have I ever struck any woman in my life.
There's this illusion of power.
Are you feeling well? I remember covering the Oscars and that now infamous moment, the Will Smith slap. You can tell from these crowds just how excited people are for the return of Pride.
These actors playing the lead roles were born long after the Sex Pistols broke up.
As a team, we've interviewed some of the biggest stars in the world.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
Don't leave me.
Yeah, okay.
There's no easy goodies. There's no easy baddies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
The 5 of us have made it out of the car.
Welcome to Backstage, the film and TV podcast.
Good morning. Coming up in the sport, England will be hoping for less of this and more better weather as they look to level the Ashes series today against Australia. Plus, Lewis Hamilton is in search of his first F1 victory since December 2021.
This Sky News Sports Bulletin is brought to you by Vitality. Getting more people more active. Live life with Vitality.
It's the biggest banking crisis since 2008. 3 banks have already failed, and they held $532 billion.
The latest reports from leading scientists says we're in a climate emergency and perilously close to the point of no return. But could hope come in extreme form with Extreme E?
He's got 1 lap to go and he has a gap of 6.2 seconds. So behind them, look, the tightest gap is between P3, Timmy Hansen, Andretti Alpha Keelit.
Here in Glenmuckloch, some 50 miles south of Glasgow by road, electric SUVs are racing off-road on a track etched into a former coal mine, which is being transformed into a hydro project providing clean renewable energy to the region. And that juxtaposition is very deliberate indeed. Old fossil fuel polluting industry changing its ways, meeting new, dynamic, sustainable sport.
I think Extreme E is kind of a blueprint for like a future-proof motorsport. It's got all the racing, it is off-road, but it races in kind of a sustainable way. So there are a lot of things we do in different regions to highlight environmental issues in those particular regions. The drivers get very involved in that. And then also the footprint of the racing series is quite small. You can see we have inflatable paddocks. They all pack up on a ship. They go around the world on a ship.
I mean, it's so different, and I think that's why it's so exciting and bringing a whole new audience into motorsport. Is we're not taking something and just electrifying it. We're going to these remote locations that have got a purpose-built racetrack, and then we're racing wheel to wheel with other cars.
McLaren are one of 10 teams involved in this 3rd season, which features intense doubleheader race weekends all around the world, testing for all the crew involved.
So they've got a very short time from when they get out of the car to when they're next going to be in it, get all the systems checks done, so make sure everything's running correctly, then understand what they want from the car, then figure out what we need to do, and then go back to them and say, okay, these are the changes we think we're going to make.
Everyone on the team was getting involved, getting stuck in with repairing the bodywork or putting new vinyl on and getting the car ready to go out.
Well, all teams race in identical machinery, and these cars are something else. This is the Odyssey 21. It goes 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. It boasts 550 brake horsepower. It weighs almost 2 tons. And here on site, it's charged up by hydrogen fuel cell technology. And it has to traverse all terrains, and you're going to have the odd shunt or even roll at times. So these things have to be incredibly physically robust.
It's pretty aggressive feeling. And the difference is when you're with the other cars and they're kicking mud in your face and everything, it is difficult to even keep your cool.
6 seconds to go! Go, 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 go!
The exhilaration is there for drivers and team owners alike. Newest entry into Extreme E? Carl Cox Motorsport. Yes, the superstar DJ has his own team.
You wonder, how are they going to keep their line? How are they going to stay away from each other? It's so fast and furious in such a way that I just want to watch it, at the end of the day, and it's all over in 20 minutes per race.
Time to get in the car, time for a hot lap.
Ready?
Let's do it. Whoa!
Oh my God, that's insane! That is crazy, absolutely crazy.
For the pros, whether in practice, qualifying or race, the competition is fierce, but the cause is crucial too. Wherever Extreme E visit, they want to race without a trace and in fact try to leave a positive environmental impact.
Hello, Katie.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Welcome
to the river.
Trying to find my feet, quite literally. All right, so What are you doing here? What's going on?
So Extreme each has a legacy program everywhere that we race, and
Right.
the legacy program here is on the River Neath. That's where we stood, and this is all about protecting the wild Atlantic salmon. The riverbanks apparently are eroding massively when they have flooding here. So
This Sky News Sports Bulletin.
James, thanks very much indeed. Well, we're going to keep the sports theme going a little bit longer, because after that 1-0 victory in Brisbane for the Lionesses, manager Sarina Wiegman admitted it was a struggle. But how did the fans react? Well, Sky's Nicole Johnson joins me now from Brisbane. Hello to you again, Nicole. So England managed to win. How did the fans react?
Well, there were thousands of fans here to support the Lionesses. They were excited. They were happy to see their team win. They had been expecting a big win against Haiti, but in the end, it was a close call. They only won 1-0. Now, Haiti is ranked 53rd in the world. It is their first World Cup competition, and that's why a bigger performance was expected by the England team. But as you said, their head coach, Sarina Wiegman, admitted that there had been a lot of close calls, actually by both sides, and that it had been a difficult game. She'd never discounted the threat of Haiti. She had said that they were an athletic team and opportunistic, and they really did show that on the field. We're waiting now for the next game. It will be Friday against Denmark. So the Lionesses heading to Sydney for that, and so will we.
Fantastic. We will speak to you then. Nicole, thanks very much indeed. Now, Russian attacks on the Black Sea port of Odessa have killed 1 person and injured 18 others, including 4 children, according to Ukrainian officials. Russia has been targeting Odessa and other Ukrainian food export facilities almost daily over the past week. On Thursday, Moscow withdrew from a UN-brokered initiative to allow the shipment of grain from Ukrainian ports. Well, the West has accused Russia of weaponizing global food supplies. Well, joining me now is former Chief of General Staff, General Lord Richard Dannert. A very good morning to you. Thanks so much for talking to us this Sunday morning. First of all, I wonder what your reaction was to news, according to the Ukrainians, of another attack on Odessa just days after Russia pulled out of this agreement to allow the safe passage of grain exports from there. How concerned are you about that and about what it means for global food security?
Well, I think it's very concerning, and as you said in your introduction, it does seem that Russia is endeavouring to weaponize grain and grain supplies. And of course, it's the people around the world that are most affected by the shortage of food that will be most affected by this. It's had the effect, obviously, of driving world grain prices up, but it's the availability of food in, as I say, those parts of the world where it's hard to grow and people rely upon international aid, international efforts to get food to them, who are going to be the most affected. And I'm afraid it's another example of the completely heartless, thoughtless, barbarous way that Putin is conducting this war.
And meanwhile, in another development, we've heard that Bulgaria has agreed to send equipment to Ukraine for the first time. How significant is that, and how much impact could it have on Ukraine's counteroffensive?
Well, it's encouraging when any further country indicates that it's going to supply more military equipment to Ukraine. There is no doubt that Ukraine needs to get its hands on just as much sophisticated modern equipment as it possibly can. And quite rightly, you make reference to the offensive that's underway. Yes, it's going slowly, but it's going carefully. It's going very thoughtfully. What the Ukrainians are continuing to do is to probe the Russian lines and to try and find 1 or 2 weak or weaker spots so that they can then push their attack corps, their 10th Corps forward, and hopefully break into the Russian lines, break through the Russian lines, and if they're able to, then to break out on the other side, which could precipitate a significant collapse in Russian morale. I think there are many reports below the morale of the average Russian soldier is. By and large, they don't want to be there. They're poorly equipped, they're poorly trained, they're poorly led. So if Ukraine can find a way of breaking into and through the Russian defensive lines, there is a chance that this war, which is static at the present moment, could regain maneuver and movement and then change in a matter of days or a few weeks the whole tone of the war. But that's for the future. Otherwise, the danger is, come the winter, this will be in a stalemate, and we'll be in a very different situation.
And meanwhile, we understand that President Putin will meet the Belarusian leader Lukashenko today, and that's just a couple of days after warning that an attack on Belarus was an attack on Russia. Do you think it's possible that President Putin wants Belarus to go further with its contribution, perhaps provide soldiers for the fight? Is that a risk?
It's a risk. I mean, hitherto, Belarus has said that it won't do that, but the Belarusian president is very much under President Putin's thumb, and may well find that actually the pressure being exerted on him is too great.
Well, General Lord Richard Down, it's always interesting to get your take on events. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We do appreciate it.
Thanks, Anna.
You're watching Sky News Breakfast. A reminder of our top stories here this morning.